Hello, this is Christina Simmons with the Say Yes to Holiness podcast. I'm so glad that you're able to join me today. The conversation is going to be absolutely fascinating. I'm with Brian Caley, and we first connected through Smart Catholics in a conference, and I hosted one of the panels that he was on. And in the midst of conversation, I was like, I think everybody in my audience would really enjoy listening to Brian and his story, but also the work that he's been doing. So, without further ado, Brian, where are you located and what have you been up to?
Well, I am located in a small town called Dover, Pennsylvania. It's a little rural area between York and Dillsburg. Not terribly exciting area to live in, but it's beautiful country, lots of trees and lakes and things, and cows. And what I am up to, well, between work as a computer technician for the Army and I am a lay minister of sorts, blogger, author. I have a site, thebeholdproject.com, where I talk about different topics, most notably my trio of mental illnesses that I deal with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And I have other people that share similar experiences, and we just talk about whatever comes to mind, whatever we think is going to be helpful to people. There's lots of links, resources, different things you can access, and I've been at it just a little over a year now. We celebrated our first birthday back in September, so that's very exciting.
Hmm. Absolutely, and that was actually how we first connected was a conference about mental health, and in the midst of the continuing pandemic, I'm down in Alabama. So how is it up in your neck of the woods in the sense of for what you're seeing the impacts are, particularly like on mental health?
Well, it depends how Governor Wolf is feeling. Let's just put it that way. Um, I know some people that are like, yeah, I'm okay with what he's doing. He's doing the best he can with what he has. And on the other side of things, there are less than complimentary views. Won't discuss my political cards on the air, but let's just say I'm glad that I am so far not contracted COVID. My wife and I have both lost people close to us from it. So,
My condolences. Both my husband and I were ill with COVID in the summer, and it was 6 weeks. 3 weeks pretty intense, and then another 3 weeks before we even felt a semblance of quote normal. And every once in a while, we joke about COVID brain. We know that there's been impacts, and it's something where we wouldn't wish it on anyone. However, that being said, it's like any other disease out in the world, and we have to take the proper precautions. And when we were doing everything we were supposed to do, we were masking, we were doing the physical distancing. I refuse to say social distancing anymore, just because we don't need to be socially distanced. We need to be physically distant because we can be close right now. But we're not going anywhere, and yet somehow we still came into contact. So praise be to God, we came through okay. But I know that I'd had a talk with Father Chris Alar, with the Marian Fathers, mercy, and his particular focus is upon mental health. And we were talking about the numbers right now, just catastrophic. And that's real easy on the macro level, but on the micro level, your experience, especially with the Behold Project, have you seen more people searching that out right now?
oh, very much so. I've written a couple of COVID related pieces. The piece that's gotten the most hits thus far is five things that are not canceled during a pandemic, like little things like mercy, human decency, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Go into that more. What prompted you to kind of go that direction?
Well, I try to be somewhat topical when I'm writing, and especially because it was something that just hit me while I was sitting at work. I was like, well, everyone's talking about this getting canceled, and this getting canceled, and the new normal. Yeah, don't get me started on that term. There is no new normal. There wasn't an old normal to begin
Right.
with. So,
Mm, right.
but yeah, it just kind of sprung from there. I prayed and let God just guide me as I write, and away I went.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's those signs of hope that I know that in particular, we as Catholic Christians really need to embody that right now, and to be able to build community as best as we can, but to truly express all what is known as a virtuous life, to be kind, to be good, to be just, to be to be loving and charitable, and patient, and just in the midst of all of that we ourselves are able to bear witness that it is possible in even if you want to call it a new normal. I was somebody who kept telling people, and this was back in May when everyone's like, "Oh, I want to get back to the way it was," and I'm going, "No, you don't. You don't want to go back to the way it was. This is an opportunity God is handing us. God's making good come out of it, in my perspective, of where He's handing us an opportunity to be able to do things properly this time, being attentive to the person. So, where is the Behold project right now? What is it that you guys are up to right now? Mhm.
Well, right now, we had a couple of pieces about New Year's and about Advent. I'm currently in the process of searching for new teammates because right now it's just me. We had a whole team at one point, but everyone just kind of went their separate ways, and that's okay. But truth be told, it works a lot better when you have more than one person contributing different viewpoints and different life experiences and that sort of thing, especially with a topic as broad as Christian/Catholic mental health. So,
Mhm. So so if people are going, "Oh, wow, I'd love to provide a perspective on that," where might they be able to reach out to?
if they go to thebeholdproject.com, there's a contact us form at the top of the page. You can also hit me up on Facebook or, excuse me, or at Twitter or Instagram at the Behold Project, and that would be uh, that would be a good avenue as well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you haven't been canceled on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's definitely the Chinese proverb of which is also the curse of may you live in interesting times definitely is applying right now. Um,
Hmm.
so before we got on, I'd love to dive into this because you made mention that you're an amateur Holocaust historian, and
Yes.
how did you get into that to begin with?
Well, when I was very young, my family had a gigantic series of books from Time Life called World War II,
Oh yes.
and it's this gigantic voluminous thing. And there was one cross section of one book. God help me, I can't remember which book, but it actually had a cross section about the Holocaust, and it was the first time I read about it, first time I saw it. Um, an image is burned into my little brain from that time onwards. They had a picture of a female survivor with wild, passionate eyes, and her fists were clenched at the camera as if to say, why, how, and just it spoke volumes to me even at that young age. And it's been kind of like this intersecting thread as I've been going through life. I took a Holocaust class in high school. Shout out to Mr. Franco and the Lone Catholic High School, and met some anti-Semitic folks while I was deployed. Had to deal with that because it was either a which side are you on type thing, and you had to make a decision.
Mhm.
It's and it was complex, and at the same time, you want to make it simple, and just for whatever reason, people won't let you. We'll just put it that way.
Mhm.
And as things kept going, and the times we live in now, I mean, just the other day, Glenn Beck compared Donald Trump getting censored on Twitter to Kristallnacht and being put in the ghetto, and I was like,
Oh my gosh.
wait.
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And these sentiments and these viewpoints are becoming more and more common, and it's
Mhm.
very disconcerting to me that this is happening. And just, we had several stories about it even this week and last week. I mean, there was a guy spotted with a Camp Auschwitz hoodie at the Capitol riots, and a second lieutenant in the army of all places is getting censured and forcibly removed by the military for anti-Semitic remarks and jokes and things, and for getting caught doing the Sieg Heil Hitler salute on his TikTok. It's just like
Oh gosh.
you would think at this point in our society that this would be something we would be past by now, but just for whatever reason it just isn't. And it's a sad commentary, it really is. And it's part of me really wishes there was more I could do about it, because right now it's like just ah, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I feel you. It's a part of why I'm doing my Say Yes to Holiness Summit next week. And actually, bad on me for not getting an invitation out to you. But if you, we can talk after. But if you're able to jump on as a guest panelist, we'd love to have you. Um,
Yeah, of course.
and so but the topic, the question that we're focusing upon is how can we be agents of healing and transformation in our world today? What active steps can we be taking in our own lives and in our communities in order to truly bring awareness of what is, around us, of how things are not appropriate, but then also not moving towards this fact of, you brought up about the cancel culture, with your article, and the fact of there is a commonality of human experience that we all can agree on, that we all need to be living according to. And so I'm absolutely fascinated, with everyone's different perspective of how it is that we can go about doing that, because it's usually a both a and integrated, in our personal lives that makes the change. But I find it interesting because words matter so dramatically. And I thought it was interesting that you brought up, as you're talking about, anti-Semitism, but you brought up about the fact that this kind of, language is happening more and more in our culture. Um, and being an amateur, is, Holocaust historian, what is it that kind of sets off your alarm bells a little bit of where you're just going, not good?
Well, as you succinctly put it, it does start with words and attitudes. I mean, the Nazi Germany didn't just spring up from a void. I mean, there were gaps that needed to be filled, and both Adolf Hitler and his minions, Joseph Goebbels especially, they had a way of using language and words to incite the feelings that they wanted you to feel. It was almost like a very sinister version of a carnival barker. Come see, we're going to make this better, and this is how we're going to do it.
Mhm,
And the majority of Germans just kind of went along with it. They weren't active conspirators. They weren't turning in their neighbors and things, but not saying that that didn't happen,
mhm,
but the majority of them were just kind of let it happen because they were busy with other things that were affecting them.
mhm,
And that's very much where it starts. And it starts with that, and it goes with plans, mostly secret plans. Been a couple of films about that, and it just ends with actions, and terrible actions like Kristallnacht and the ghettos and everything else.
mhm. Yeah. It's something where One of the things, so to tie it into the spiritual life and also within our, so turning it towards our Catholic parish communities, for example, not going down the anti Semitic route, but rather the apathy and the, "Oh, I can't be bothered," kind of because it doesn't really impact me, kind of, yeah, attitude. And what I feel that we have lost is our capacity to truly love, to truly care for our brothers and sisters, that we're willing to step into the gap and to almost kind of shake them and go, hello, hey, and it applies to our spiritual life. And that's where I'm going, is that so often people are just kind of drifting through life and they don't understand that there's a spiritual battle that's going on. And I know that your background, I mean, I'd love for you to kind of, share a little bit in the sense of people need to wake up, because it's not until we're aware that then we can deepen our understanding of how it is that we need to take action and then take action. But by the time we become aware when we're drifting through, it's too late. So,
Well, I was never given the choice to drift through. I made some very poor decisions when I was younger. I was a cradle Catholic, brought up in a lukewarmish sort of environment, and then when I was 15, my father passed away from a cerebral aneurysm, and the adults in my life did not really have an answer for me in one way or another. Nobody really sat me down, talked to me about it. I mean, you would think that at a Catholic school, a priest would have reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to discuss what this means?" And that didn't happen. So, in my haste, anger, pride, etc., I was a pseudo Satanist for a number of years. I practiced magic. I listened to bad music, hung out with bad people, and did all kinds of not nice things. You name it, I at least thought about it. So, but gradually, slowly but surely, I came back to God. First through just getting away from all that, just realizing that hey, this is not a good thing, and there were other signs and not nice things that were going on at the time. And once I got away from that, the signs subsided, so that was a good thing. And eventually, I met my lovely wife Ruth, who is a Lutheran. Was with her faith for a bit. They were lovely people. I still felt like I was missing something though, and the signs and not nice things were starting to return. So I was said to myself, something must still be amiss. I have to reach out and really grab something here. So one cold February day, I drove down to the Grotto of Lords in Emmitsburg, Maryland, trudged through the ice and more ice, threw myself at the big stone cross at the top of the hill, and basically said, "Okay, Lord, it's either you or me. I mean, what's it going to be? Because I can't go on anymore." And I threw myself on God's tender mercies and hope for the best. And as sure as you and I are sitting here, Christina, something left me physically that day, like up and out, and the signs stopped. I no longer had the urge to commit suicide. You know, that's definitely a good thing. And I said to myself, there must be something here because it's a Catholic site, you know. So I started reading about that, and I joined a Catholics with depression slash mental illness group on Facebook. Shout out to my peeps there because they're wonderful, wonderful people.
mhm,
They've played a tremendous role in my spiritual development, and the Behold project kind of sprung from that. It was my way of trying to give back, trying to help others that were in similar quagmires and situations and things.
mhm. Yeah. Again, I highlight the fact that it was others loving and choosing to engage and to be attentive to you as a person that was able to help you continue to come back. Of course, it was our Lord's great mercy and grace, in that moment. And for those of us who've kind of strayed afar, I didn't have to contend with what you did, but again, it's that you look back at your life, and I share in my book, at the beginning of I've broken all 10 of the commandments. This is not to brag, but rather it's just a reality. And therefore, I know I need a savior. I know that there's nothing I'm capable of being able to do to overcome my sin. And it's only by his grace. But it's in community that we're able to bond together, that we're able to become more than who we are as individuals, and I truly believe that is why, um, building community, the human relationship. I mean, you made mention, and it's not like, we're blaming, whoever the priest was, at the time of your father's death. And my condolences still. I mean, to lose a parent is a tragic thing. I lost my both my fathers, my biological father and my stepfather, who I called my dad, early on, and so it's a huge hole. And
I'm sorry to
but
hear that.
and it's something that, again, God works to the good. He brought other people into my life to bring His grace and mercy to me, and that's the thing that I think we always need to focus upon, is that we always need to be, if we're struggling with things, if we need help, we need to reach out. We need to say, I need help. I need other people, and it can be in a crisis. It can be in a continuing, struggle. And but the bigger piece, though, is that we need to surround ourselves with people who truly care for us and desire our good. That they, because what is love? It's the will to good.
Right.
And so, but we need to surround ourselves with those people, and be intentional about it. And oftentimes, those people who should be those people are not. And what we have to realize is that we need to still keep looking. That doesn't mean we stop. We don't just blame others or excuse it, or whatever, but rather we.
Yeah, and you don't cling to unforgiveness either. It took me a long time, couple of years, to really get past the fact that God didn't take my father from me. He died because he did not take good care of himself, and he had high blood pressure, and his brain basically collapsed in on itself. And the other adults that were in my life that, for whatever reason this happened, I choose not to hold it against them, because that would just swarm in my brain forever and ever and ever. And I could what if it to death. What if, somebody sat me down on their knee and said, "Oh, God's got you. It's going to be okay." And my life would have went on a completely different trajectory, and blah, blah, blah. I could do that from now until forever, but I'm choosing not to, because that's not the reality of what happened. It's not the reality of who I am. So
Mhm.
it's very important as well.
It is, but also rejoicing in the reality of who we each are, of knowing that our Heavenly Father loves us beyond measure, and even if we're not able to know that He's present, He always has been, and that He does work to the good, always, even when we make those bad choices. Even when we're going down the wrong path, he still is working to bring about our good, because he loves us more than we can ever imagine. And so, but I was struck by you saying, don't cling to unforgiveness, and how apropos for our time right now. Don't cling to unforgiveness. And that's probably been my greatest prayer, especially in this last week, which I thought it was interesting. You called it the Capitol riots, not insurrection. Again, wording, language. Um,
Well, I say riots because I don't think half the people there even knew what they wanted out of what was going
mhm,
on. I think a good half of them wanted an insurrection, hence why they brought zip ties and whatever else. But I think half of them were just group thinking and just kind of going along with whatever, and just got caught up in the moment, and there they were, type thing.
mhm. And
But yeah, it's
yep, and even that, it still was 10% of the entire crowd that
mhm,
were involved in that, and, so often we look at the exceptions because less than 10% is an exception, it's not the rule, it's not the majority, and what was done was completely wrong, and, they need to be held accountable for the groupthink, there's
yes, absolutely.
um, but that all being said, we need to not cling to unforgiveness. Need to find that path ahead. So, anything that you would like to share with folk, just kind of any observations or thoughts that you have in this moment that Holy Spirit, is kind of pinging you with right now in the midst of all of our discussion.
Well, in addition to not clinging to unforgiveness, I would say don't cling to a lack of understanding either, because I think that's
Mhm,
where a lot of this anti-Semitism and just off the wall radical thinking is coming from. Is just a either not wanting to or just an inability to feel what the other sides feel. I mean, there's a distinct lack of empathy going around,
mhm,
and I'm not sure if it was always that way and it's just more pronounced now, but it's just unbelievable. And that's something we as a society and as a honestly as a Catholic, as the Catholic faith, we need to get back.
mhm,
We need to be able to reach out to the other side and be civil and say, look, we disagree on this, but that doesn't mean that we can't come to an agreement on how things should be, because we're I believe it was St. Pope John Paul II that said the word was not meant to be used as a cudgel.
mm,
I am a huge believer in that.
mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And so often I think we resist doing those things. We resist being able to see the other as ourselves, which is the reality. The other is us, because it's difficult. And we forget that if it's not difficult, if there isn't struggle, the chances are pretty good it's not worthwhile, whatever it is that we're moving towards. And I always liken it to the Staples commercial was great, with their little easy button, and that's what people think life should be. And it's not that it should be this terrible, onerous, dreadful thing, of waking up each day and oh my gosh, I got another day to live, but rather it's to be filled with joy of anticipation of opportunities, but knowing that when we encounter struggle, that means that we are being formed and changed and we're becoming better if that is where we're trying to strive for. And that's why keep your eye on holiness, so
Yep, it's amazing how it all ties together.
it is. It definitely is. Well, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's already been a half an hour. Always flies when having great conversation with people. Brian, remind everybody of your website and the fact that if people are interested, especially in being able to provide a Christian Catholic mental health perspective, to reach out to you. And where is it that they can find you again?
Yeah, it's thebeholdproject.com. There's a contact us form at the top of the page. You can also reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter at the Behold Project.
Wonderful. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it so much, and I'm looking forward to hopefully you'll be able to jump on to a panel session next week. And regardless, I look forward to connecting with you in the future, and know my continued prayers for all the work that you're doing because it is so very important, not just in this time but throughout. So you have
Likewise, thank you.
not at all. All right. All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Say Yes to Holiness podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, and know of my continued prayers that you continue to be able to do whatever it takes to be able to grow in holiness so that together we can tell the master of death, not today.